30 seconds until minions spawn. Minions have spawned.
Maybe.
Has been slain.
those two indictments?
Well, indictments aren't a thing to
Do you disagree?
with.
They're about 40 or 50 pages. Do you disagree with the evidence outlined in those indictments?
Well, indictments are just charges.
I was asking, do you disagree with the evidence included in those indictments? Yes or no?
Not a majority of that case, I couldn't possibly.
Okay, because you said earlier, I believe, that you did not see Russia, you did not confirm that Russia interfered in our election in 2016, that you don't believe. Is that your testimony here today? You don't believe that they did?
It's possible that they may have on a small scale, but certainly not
What's been reported or what's been included in the indictment?
Again, indictments are allegations. They're not true.
I understand. It's pretty detailed allegations.
In the Mueller indictment, by the way...
You should go read the indictment and then come back and tell us if you actually think there's no proof of it.
Well,
but let me move on. Let me move on, please.
By the way, when
please, let me move on. That's how this works. You should know that by now. So, do you disagree with the Special Counsel Mueller's conclusion in his report, Mr. Taibbi, that the Trump campaign knew about Russia's interference, they welcomed it, and they used it for their benefit? You have no reason to disagree with that, don't you? You have no information. Ooh. So after that foreign interference in our 2016 election, Twitter and other social media companies naturally wanted to work with the intelligence community to stop Vladimir Putin from interfering in our elections again.
Did we watch the end of this? Have we seen everything now?
It's a legitimate pursuit of the FBI to try to stop foreign interference in our elections?
Again, sir, will I be allowed to answer this question, or...
It's a yes or no question. Do you think it's a legitimate pursuit of the FBI?
It's not a yes or no answer.
No. I'm not asking how. I'm saying, as an objective, do you think it's a legitimate objective of the FBI to stop foreign interference in our elections?
I think it's a legitimate objective to stop actual foreign interference.
Okay. I don't know what the difference is, but that's fine.
Well,
since Russia used social media disinformation, according to Special Counsel Mueller, I understand you may disagree with the allegations, to interfere in our 2016 elections, were you trying to say that the FBI had no basis to inform social media companies about efforts to potentially interfere in our elections?
I can tell you that I've read internal Twitter emails that Twitter expressly talked about the fact that the FBI couldn't possibly know more than they did about whether or not there was Russian interference, and that in fact, even they couldn't determine which accounts were actually IRA and which ones weren't.
Okay, I understand that that was not an answer. Mr. Schellenberger, in all of the emails that you reviewed, did the FBI ever direct Twitter to take down any accounts or remove any posts? Yes. They directed Twitter to remove them, and they said these may violate your terms and services.
Yes. I think that's an accurate use of the word direct.
He said these may violate. You think that saying that these may violate your terms and conditions is the same as
That's the argument we had with Connor.
Yeah, I mean, I think if a police officer says,
"All right, well,
you broke the law,"
very helpful. That's very helpful. I'm glad to know that you think flagging something for a private company to make a decision about what they should do is a direction. Now, Mr. Chairman, you have repeatedly said that this committee is all about protecting the First Amendment. Mm-hmm. And what's unfortunate here is that we are talking about Twitter, and that we are not talking about Republican government officials around the country who are banning books. And we are not talking about...
Would the gentleman yield?
No, I will not. And we are not talking about Donald Trump jailing his former counsel to prohibit him from publishing a book that the president did not want. The former president literally jailed his enemy. And we're here talking about Twitter. Twitter! And even with Twitter, you cannot find actual evidence of any direct government censorship of any lawful speech. And when I say lawful, I mean non-criminal speech because plenty
I'll give you one.
is non-criminal.
I'll give you one. Gentleman's time to expire. I'd ask unanimous consent to enter into the record the following email from Clark Humphrey, Executive Office, the Presidency, White House Office, January 23rd, 2021. That's the Biden administration, 4:39 a.m. Hey, folks. It goes to Twitter. Hey, folks, wanted to use the term Mr. They use the term Mr. Goldman just used. Wanted to flag the below tweet, and I'm wondering if we can get moving on the process for having it removed ASAP. That is.
Could you read the below tweet?
And then if we can keep an eye out for tweets that fall in this same genre, that would be great. This is a tweet on the very issue that Thomas.
Can you
Mr.
just,
Massey brought.
for the fullness of the record, can you read the, because I've not seen this, can you read the tweet that it's referencing?
I don't have the tweet here with me, but the gentleman's point was, tell us, you said no time did government try to tell Twitter to take that, to explicitly remove something, and
No, I said
it says-
explicitly remove lawful speech. Lawful speech. We're going to conflate. The First Amendment is not absolute.
Twitter, this is something from Robert Kennedy Jr.
But for the
I
record,
assume that's
it's
lawful
a point
speech.
of order, Mr. Chair.
Because Robert Kennedy Jr.
Just a
said
minute,
it? That's
just
why
a
it's
minute.
lawful speech?
Well,
Just a minute, Mr. Goldman.
But all I'm saying is, you
Chair?
said in no time did the government explicitly say to take a tweet down. Here we have
No
it, right
time.
here.
Mr.
from the White
Chair?
House.
I need to run down and get my food. Or I guess we already listened to this, so you can listen. I'll be right back.
House, they couldn't even wait 2 days. 2 days into this administration, they were asked Twitter to
Mr.
take something
Chair.
down, and we will get you the underlying tweet.
Thank
With that,
you.
I recognize the gentlelady from New York.
Will you place it into the record as well, sir? The underlying tweet?
Robert Kennedy Jr. Is talking about he's talking about Hank Aaron's death after he received the vaccine. That's what the tweet's about. We'll get you a copy. I think, and I would say one thing. That's certainly lawful.
Mr. Chairman, I ask unanimous consent to enter the tweet that you referenced into the record of the committee.
Without objection, we'll enter that into the record, along with the statement from the White House, Biden White House, 2 days into the administration, when they're directly attacking people's First Amendment liberties. With that, I recognize the gentlelady from New York for 5 minutes.
I want to yield to Mr. Johnson.
Thank you. Just to point out quickly that Mr. Goldman is proving himself to be a master of obfuscation. He said, the First Amendment applies to government censorship of speech and not private companies. But what we're talking about and what the chairman just illustrated is that what we have here and what your Twitter files show is the federal government has partnered with private companies to censor and silence the speech of American citizens.
I just came from an open hearing with FBI Director Chris Wray, and he said under oath that no one from the FBI communicated with Twitter regarding the Hunter Biden laptop story. Based upon both of your courageous reporting, can you address that?
I mean, we saw. I mean, like I said, we don't know. I mean, so at this point, we just have to take his word on it. But what we saw was a huge amount of FBI communications to Twitter, the chief of staff, the former general counsel showing up at Twitter right at the critical period. So I find a lot of suspicious activity. I would like to ask him a bunch of questions about that because I find it very suspicious. And
Mr. Taibbi, do you have comments on that?
We do know that there was a teleporter communication that had 10 documents in it just before the story broke, but we don't know what those documents were, so we can't suppose.
Well, I don't take his word for it. We have lots of examples where it has not been, they have not been accurate from that particular agency when it comes to testifying before Congress. So it is our job in this committee to get to the truth, to shine sunlight and transparency for the American people. I want to ask you both about the Aspen Digital Hack and Dump Working Group, which involved an 11-day scenario in October 2020 that began with the imaginary release of falsified records, that's what they claim, related to Hunter Biden's controversial employment by the Ukrainian energy company Burisma. This was if they knew, because they did know. So I would like your comments, Mr. Schellenberg. These were the files that you did extensive reporting on about how concerning this is and how this is truly the definition of the weaponization against free speech and suppressing accurate reporting.
yeah, so there's actually two things, and one of them we just discovered recently, which is that there was a Stanford Cyber Policy Institute report, which said that, was in menacing terms telling journalists that they should abandon the Pentagon principle. Again, this is the Pentagon Papers principle. This is the idea that if Daniel Ellsberg brings you materials he's taken from the Pentagon about how the war in Vietnam is going on, the New York Times and Washington Post published those. That was considered one of the greatest moments of American journalism. Here you have Stanford Cyber Policy Center saying we should abandon that principle. You should instead make the issue about, frankly, the theories about where it might have come from. Then you had the Aspen workshop, which was attended, by the way, by New York Times, CNN, Washington Post, Wikipedia, Facebook, Twitter, many other journalists, where they basically read it, it's like a kind of programming of the journalists that they should not follow this long-standing journalistic principle of taking materials from a hack and leak or any other situation to take them seriously. So, I mean, you read this and it feels like a kind of brainwashing exercise that Aspen Institute and Stanford were running against American journalists and the social media companies.
Mr. Taibbi, comments?
Yes, I think, there were a couple of moments in the Twitter files that really speak to a kind of larger problem. In the first Twitter files, we saw an exchange between Representative Will and the guy God, where he's trying to explain the basics of speech law in America, and she seems completely unaware of what, for instance, New York Times v. Sullivan is. There are other cases like Bartnett v. Flopper, which legalize the publication of stolen material. That's very important for any journalist to know. I think most of these people are tech executives and they don't know what the law is around speech and around reporting. And in this case, and in 2019, you were dealing with true material. There is no basis to restrict the publication of true material, no matter who the source is and how you get it. And journalists have always understood that. And this has never been an issue or a controversial issue until very recently.
And by the way, just one quick thing I'll add. That's the exact same strategy of the malinformation, misleading. In other words, they were saying even if the material you think is true, it could lead people to have conclusions that we don't want them to have, and therefore you can't change your journalism. So this is, we're so far down the slippery slope, you crashed at that point. I mean, it's a disturbing trend in journalism, in social media, and in the relationship from the intelligence community to these organizations.
How have you been targeted since the publication of the Twitter files?
I don't have time to try to get a quick answer.
Again, I've known journalists who suffered real harm in my career, so they've said a lot of nasty things about me on Twitter, but it hasn't been so bad. The FTC thing is the only thing that's genuinely concerning and not really from my side.
I've been censored on Facebook since the year 2020 for writing accurate information in an article that was I remain censored to continue to flag articles that I write that have nothing to do with the environment. And we now know that one of the U.S. government-funded organizations has put out a report that specifically targets me and presents disinformation about my own position on climate change. And so I've got a lot at stake here.
I think what you guys are doing is very important. We're here to discuss the weaponization of government, and I want to follow up on my colleague, Representative Massey's comments on the CDC. Up on the screen, you can see an email from October of 2020. This is from then NIH Director Francis Collins to Dr. Anthony Fauci. It goes on in to say this proposal, talking about the Great Barrington Declaration, is from 3 fringe epidemiologists who met with the secretary and seems to be getting a lot of attention, even a co-signature from a Nobel Prize winner. Key line in here that I would like to point out. There needs to be a, quote, quick and devastating published takedown of its premises. I don't see anything like that on the list yet. It is underway, signed Francis. Now, what I find interesting is if you fast forward into June of 2021, the Biden administration was raging at social media companies. There is communications that we can produce, for the record, that state, we would like you to combat quote-unquote misinformation. Now, we, thanks to the Twitter files, know that executives were using the term visibility filtering, and that really to the rest of the American general public was shadow banning, correct? So all of a sudden, we saw a rash of blacklists created by Twitter at the highest levels that were taking down some of the signatories and creators of this very Barrington Declaration, correct?
I haven't seen it.
So, would you agree that there was a blacklist created in 2021?
Sorry, yes, Jay Bhattacharya, the Stanford professor, who I don't think anybody considers a fringe epidemiologist, was indeed, sorry, I didn't piece it together, he was indeed visibility filtered.
Correct. And so this blacklist that was created that really was used to deplatform, reduce visibility, create lists internally where people couldn't even see their profiles. That was used against doctors and scientists who produced information that was contrary to what the CDC was putting out, despite the fact that we now know that what they were publishing had scientific basis and in fact was valid.
Absolutely, and not only that, but these are secret blacklists. So Professor Bhattacharya had no idea he was on it. I mean, this is East Germany Stasi kind of behavior. That's what this is. And the Great Barrington Declaration, by the way, I was skeptical at the time, but it actually now looks good. How response to COVID. But even if it was totally wrong, it still serves, and this is the whole point of it, that I think we all have the experience of you're not right until you're wrong a lot. You know, you actually have to have that debate and that conversation. So by repressing that, we actually stifled, I think, a much broader conversation we could have had about how to effectively respond to COVID because they were receiving
The bigger point that Americans are concerned about when it comes to the weaponization of government, this isn't a Republican or Democrat issue, this is an American issue. You had individuals, millions of Americans, who in many cases were being mandated to take an experimental vaccine, and when those that wanted to consider taking it were trying to make an informed decision, you had opinions that were being silenced because it didn't fit a specific narrative pushed by the Biden administration, correct?
Absolutely correct. That's why we use the language of disfavored ideas and disfavored people, because it doesn't fall neatly among left and right lines. If there's anything going on here, it tends to be more of a disproportionate blacklisting of more populist voices, or just ideas that we would consider slightly outside of the Overton window, the mainstream opinion at the time. The Overton window moves, and so the idea that you're just going to narrow the entire what's acceptable on social media to what is mainstream at the time would basically freeze us and not allow society to progress and for knowledge to grow and for the democracy to function.
With the 14 seconds that I have left, Mr. Taibbi, if you'd like to weigh in on any of this that we have talked about and why this is a direct threat to Americans today, I appreciate it.
Quickly, again, we yesterday discovered this email talking about the suppression of people telling their own stories of true vaccine side effects. So these are people who are telling about their own experiences, things that are happening that are true, and they're being suppressed because what anti-disinformation does is the opposite of what the press does. They are aiming for what the narrative is, and they already know in advance what they're looking for, whereas a journalist goes into a story does not know what the truth is. We often find that the thing we expect to find turns out to be completely different. They know in advance what they're looking for, and that's why this is so dangerous.
My time has expired. I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back. I want to thank our witnesses. You know, I think maybe if we can get this right and stop this, and whatever legislation, whatever it takes to stop this, I think in the future people will look back and look at your courage as in the press, come come here, what you've been facing, what you've had to endure, and now with the idea that the FTC is coming after you, that's something I think is pretty darn important. So much value is on our side, committed to protecting the First Amendment and people's right to speak. So that concludes today's hearing. Again, we thank you both for being here. Without objection, all members will have 5 legislative days to submit additional written questions for the witnesses or additional materials for the record. Without objection, the hearing is adjourned.
Ms. Sanchez. Mr. Schellenberger, first, I'd just like to compliment you on your choice of tie today. Seems like we're on the same page. I would also just like to respond to your last point and just remind everyone that, of course, we all believe in the First Amendment, but the First Amendment applies to government prohibition of speech, not to private companies. I want to talk about your Twitter file.
Sorry, hold on. Ooh, 1 second. Oh. Wait, how do you pronounce JSPLK's name? What the Jesus. I'm so sorry. Wait, what the fuck? Is that an LSF bot? There's no way. Oh, no way. How old is this? This is probably like fucking... Never mind. Fuck you. Fuck you and fuck linking this. Okay, hold on. Chill, guys. World's getting crazy out there, guys. Okay? The world's getting crazy. Okay.
Files number 7.
Typically, when describing the online political space that we inhabit together, there is an analogy made about the relationships between streamers. They say that our relationship with each other is very similar to that of our solar system. There are certain content creators that are massive in size compared to the average. They might be 1% or less of the entire creator space, but capture upwards of 90% of the audience. Smaller creators who are trying to break into space sometimes find it best to try to collaborate with bigger creators in the same genre to try and grow their own audience. They fall into orbit around these larger content creators, and thus are often dubbed orbiters.
The orbiters. Fuck! Hold on 1 second. Oh god. Oh no, guys. I almost had no hot sauce. Not good.
As an orbiter, a lot of your success is tied to staying in the good graces of the creator you are now orbiting. So one day, you have enough fans to create your own orbit.
Aww.
But as of late, I found using a celestial model to describe the relationships between content creators to implement. I started wondering if there was something here on Earth that I could use to mirror the relationships more accurately. Something I could use to perhaps predict my own what's up, or warn me about the potential pitfalls I should avoid. I began to start mapping out the relationships between the many streamers I follow, and what began to form was different than what I had expected. The relationships began to look a lot more feudal. Hey everybody, it's Will, and this is my channel. Now, I'm not one to reinvent the wheel, so if I'm gonna try to get you to change your perspective from the typically accepted planet-orbiter relationship to my new theory of there being—
Your turret has been destroyed.
place where he could grow a massive normie audience, distinctly separate from the area of online pull I want to focus on today. So we will skip content creators like him.
Okay.
There are online media outlets like The Daily Wire, The Majority Report, Piers Morgan, The Young Turks, even people like David Pakman, who have their own completely different environment that they have to navigate, being content creators catering to a more mainstream audience. We might all be online together, talking about politics, but they are far away from the groups that I want to talk about today, because I think that the most powerful bonds that content creators have between each other is fueled by shared audience. But before I tell you too much about the relationships and power dynamics between the numerous streamers of online pull, we need to know who these kings, lords, and knights are, to give their dynamics context. Today, I am focusing on a left, a right, and a center, whose audiences are currently in the middle of a 100 years war.
Oh shit. Left, right, center. Am I the right? Oh wait, Nick, what the?
King Vosh of the Voshite Empire.
Wait, I'm the fucking center between Vosh and Fuentes? What the fuck?
arose similarly to Hassan the Hun. Vosh split from the Taliban after a failed coup as Lord Irish Laddie in 2019. Since the split, he has amassed his own large kingdom of left-wing content creators. Lord Avalon, after seeing the holy light of the left, made a transition that is still proving difficult, but his place in Vosh's fiefdom was made solid when Vosh humanized him in a debate, while he was getting massive flack during his transition from the right to the left. Lord Slanderhall, the purveyor of purge, has been a close friend and fierce ally of the Voshite Empire since the very beginning. He is perhaps one of Vosh's oldest lords. The demon, first spawned in early 2020, has risen in popularity over the years and is well known for her trans, supply chain, and education takes. She has since been courted and defended by King Vosh on even some of her most outrageous claims. Many lords and knights from the Taliban have attempted to exercise them. Exalted knight of the Taliban, Hans of Markir was, perhaps, the most. Lady Keplis, the conqueror of Helios, has been at war with many other kingdoms, but none caught the same fire and attention as her frequent scuffles with the Taliban. There's currently a ceasefire between Lady Keplis and the Taliban due to threat of legal decree from its monarchical leader, King Stephen. Many charity projects that she has set up over the years have been fueled by donations from the Voshites. There are several knights in their steed, such as Ser Castley of Neolibralia and Ser Sunday of Melatonia. But when the Fortress arc started, it was hard for King Vosh to gather new allies. This has resulted in King Vosh having significantly less lords and knights in his fiefdom than that of the Taliban. Over time, we are seeing King Vosh's fortress lower its defenses in attempts to get new influence in more mainstream political kingdoms, such as Young Turkey. The Voshite Empire has attracted around 500,000 serfs to its name, but they do not possess the same vigor as those in other kingdoms. The amount of serfs in this kingdom has also remained fairly stagnant the past few years, and this probably speaks to King Vosh's inability to entice other more middle-of-the-road knights and serfs to his cause. Inshallah, the Taliban. The Taliban is a wise and proud kingdom and is headed by none other than the infamous King Stephen Benel II, or as he is called in some circles, Destiny, because interactions with this one man can literally change your life. The history of the Taliban stretches longer than almost any other kingdom online. 10 years ago, King Stephen first took rise in the ancient game of StarCraft II. He began to make a shift to debate and political content around 2016, and has since then garnered a massive kingdom that even after several insurrections and successful coups, has remained one of the largest and most cohesive online communities in the world. How did King Stephen get his crown? And how has he managed to remain influential for so long? Firstly, he got in early. When Destiny first started streaming, the land was open and fertile. King Stephen was at the right place at the right time to build an all-in empire. Secondly, he is incredible at moving serfs to his side from opposing kingdoms. Destiny is a charming and intelligent guy, and is able to use his charisma, debate skills, and silver tongue to grow his empire. With each new conversation had, his circle strengthens. Thirdly, he has been able to network more effectively with other people in the online politics space by implicitly giving away large pieces of his kingdom to an extremely devoted set of lords and ladies, who then bestow vassalhood onto an innumerable amount of knights that ride underneath the Taliban flag either directly or indirectly. He does this by funneling his enormous amount of loyal serfs to different streamers that are underneath him, or by having up-and-coming knights or lords appear in his court while he is live streaming to entice his audience to view them when he is offline. Lords such as... is Lord Chud the Logical, the Taliban's bellman. With the nose of an English pointer, it is said that Chud can smell spicy drama from 100 yards away. A man with little patience, he is not one to trifle with. Failure to deliver the goods can lead to a swift death by Lord Chud's execution. Lady Brittany Lovelace, the siren of BGG, has an extremely devoted cult that has arisen out of the fruits of around 20 to 30 hours of conversations with King Stephen and various various other drama between other lords and knights. She now has her own religion that can systematically categorize any person. Lady Erudite of Psychometronica has seen the largest jump in creator growth in the kingdom over the past year, and has been able to use Destiny's Fief in one of the most effective ways possible. Her content ranges from dating advice, the manosphere, to mental health tips. She punches above her weight on exponentially larger streams than herself due to her own extremely solid content machine and the ability to attract audience outside of Destiny's direct casting. Lord Carson of Meta was single-handedly taken from serfdom and placed into the ranks of the lords, much to their dismay. This flock of horses are small, but virile. As of writing this document, Lord Carson is waging all-out war against the Daliban to solidify his own kingdom. But will he ever truly be able to escape the grasp of the Daliban? The knights that ride underneath King Stephen's banner are too numerous to name, but the most prominent are Dame Cherie, Sir Wick, Dame Dusty, Sir Supreme, Sir Hans, Sir Pisco, Sir Counterpoints, Sir Relevant, Dame Zonia, and many, many more. With a little flair, a knight is created from almost any content creator the King Destiny comes in contact with. The serfs are not only greater in number than any other kingdom in online poll, but they are also dedicated. They have participated in 2 election campaigns. They have committed such acts as Bloody Sunday, where they murdered Twitch Plays Pokemon, K911, and Exclamation Point Shoot, which led to the genocide of an innumerable amount of Mr. Girl followers. The many people underneath the Daliban flag experienced great growth and prosperity as their faithful leader expands his kingdom to less politically oriented lands, such as No Jumper and Fresh Air. Sometimes, even a lucky lord or lady gets to make an appearance alongside the king himself. There's no sign of King Destiny or the Daliban slowing the growth anytime soon. The only sizable kingdom with a more mobilized and fanatic fan base in online poll than the Daliban is that of the Groyper army. Nick Fuentes went from being a loser serf to having a small but radical kingdom in what felt like a matter of months. In early 2016, Nick Fuentes, a serf yet to be a king, began an online show called America First, following Donald Trump's 2016 election. His first claim to fame was an appearance at the 2017 Unite the Right rally in Charleston, Virginia, where several hundred other white nationalists took to the streets to protest the tearing down of a Confederate statue. That was the same rally, if you'll remember, that ended with an extremist right-winger driving his Dodge Challenger through a crowd of people that resulted in 1 person being killed and 35 people being injured. Sadly, this was not the last time we would hear about the alt-right or Nick Fuentes. For the next several years, Fuentes gathered a small legion of radicals by streaming regularly on YouTube, as well as making frequent visits to college campuses. In January of 2020, Fuentes was banished from YouTube for violating their hate speech policy and left for redder pastures. It was time for a change. The Groypers packed up their ideology and made pilgrimage towards new and unexplored lands. The Groypers crowned Nick Fuentes King of the Groyper Army and King of the Incels because Elliot Rodger was indisposed. King Nick, in collaboration with Conspiracy Merlin Alex Jones, set up their own live streaming service to compete with Twitch and YouTube called Cozy TV, where they could stream regularly without the fear of being removed from the internet. In February of 2020, the Groyper Army held their first annual America First Political Action Conference, which was an abject failure. The budget was low and the speakers bottom of the barrel, but that didn't stop them from trying again the following year. Far-right extremism was reaching a boiling point, and King Nick was positioning himself to spread his influence and gain ground for his kingdom. A month after the attacks on the Capitol, King Nick received a sizable amount of gold in the form of $250,000 in Bitcoin from a French computer programmer, who mysteriously committed suicide shortly thereafter.
Jesus.
With some dollars in the coffer, AFPAC 2021 was held at the Hilton Hotel in Orlando, Florida, a month after the insurrection. The production value increased dramatically. There were more speakers, and they were less on the fringes of the alt-right than before. King Nick was gaining ground and feeling more confident, and who could blame him? I mean, a month earlier, the alt-right was trying to hang Mike Pence for certifying the 2020 election. Extremism in America was blooming in a way that most Americans didn't think was possible, and King Nick and his nefarious band of Groypers were loving every second of it. While the internet was laughing, the Groyper Army was networking. The 2022 AFPAC convention. The Hilton refused to host the Groypers again, so they moved the conference literally across the street to a nearby Marriott. The conference was sponsored by the up-and-coming social media platform Gab. They had many influential speakers from the alt-right, as well as 4 elected officials from the US government. The alt-right's AOC, Marjorie Taylor Greene, had this to say.
True.
It doesn't matter if I'm speaking to Democrat union members or 1,200 young conservatives who feel cast aside and marginalized by society. The Pharisees of the Republican Party may attack me for being willing to break barriers and speak to a lost generation of young people who are desperate for love and leadership.
Didn't she disavow like a month later or something?
In addition to elected officials, the conference also hosted a variety of far-right media personalities, including Gavin McInnes, Jesse Lee Peterson, and Milo Yiannopoulos. Fuentes claimed that Yiannopoulos was responsible for connecting him with Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene. It is evident that this relationship between Milo and Nick would continue to prove useful in connecting King Nick with people in more mainstream kingdoms to push his message, including most recently, the artist formerly known
Wait, is this
as
going to make an
Kanye
argument,
West.
or is it just like a meme history?
Since Cozy TV's launch, people have been moving underneath King Nick's rule as they are banished from other lands. The lords of the Groyper army are few, and the biggest names relevant to online poll are as follows. Lord Kai, a young Groyper who is featured sometimes in front of Dame Dusty's court. Conservative, young, and can't explain exactly what the Groypers stand for. A perfect lord for Nick Fuentes. Lord Tech, who is initially seen as a total nobody, somehow was able to take down Lord Carson's entire YouTube channel by having the Groyper army raise their banners to a few of his most salacious ballads. The most recent addition to Nick Fuentes' fiefdom was none other than Lord Sneeko, whose soul was won by King Nick in an epic war waged with the Daliban. Lord Sneeko has proved a useful tool to give Fuentes and the Groyper army access to an audience that is large, young, and easy to influence. Lord Sneeko also sanitizes King Nick to appear less like an ethno-nationalist. King Destiny, as much as he tried, did not have the strength to turn Sneeko and his incredibly large and naive audience onto the path of liberal enlightenment. Anyone that is currently streaming on Cozy TV may or may not consider themselves a knight to King Fuentes, but they are. And with his vassalhood comes some level of control. An invite is required from Nick himself to stream in his kingdom, and realistically, you could be pulled at any time. If you wanted to be reminded of how crass the old internet was, look no further than the chat of anyone in the Groyper army. The reactionary fervor of the serfs of the Groyper army really cannot be overstated. They only may be between 45,000 and 70,000 strong.
You're someone who's in it to make money. As a business person, can you blame people for using you to make money? I guess if you can literally go to the mirror and look at yourself every day, knowing that you're just like a cockroach, if you can do that and feel comfortable with yourself, that's good. I know that my persona on stream and off is pretty much the same. There's a lot of people that know that if they meet me in real life with the way they've been behaving, I'm not going to be nice to them. But a lot of these guys are like snakes in the grass. They'll act like hard asses online, and then they'll go to public places and like they'll try to be your best bro. That's what I mean. Like these people are like people that would have gotten beat up in school. There's basic decency. You know what I mean? At the same time, these people would not do it if the community at large wasn't such pathetic, incel, whiny, crab in a bucket motherfuckers with no hope or ambition in life. You say you're someone who's in it to
to Summoner's Rift. Seconds until minions spawn. Minions have spawned. been slain.
You say you're someone who's in it to make money. As a business person, can you blame people for using?
George.
A good fight.
Hello, BBCers. Welcome to another episode 140. We've got Nathan, Soltu, Mott, and we've got Coach Curtis. First name Coach, last name Curtis. Today, I want to kick it off with a very important story. I'm going to try and highlight the important points of this story. Now, to give a little bit of context, his name's Leper Cooper. He's 33. He's married. He plays League of Legends. He's a CNC machinist. He works with metal and program machines. Now, he's an old school player. He's been playing since 2011. He swapped roles many times. He was actually a jungler back in the day. 3 years ago, he got a review from you when you were doing your...
Just started my YouTube channel.
Started 3 years ago. It's on your YouTube channel right now. It's an Iron Skarner review. And Leper Cooper recently made Goal 4. And this might be one of the most important stories we share. We've recently started our voyage on this whole new journey of coaching the lower elo community below gold. And it is absolutely fascinating to see, why this guy was in this elo bracket for so long, what sort of narratives were keeping him here, and basically breaking down this story. And there is a lot here to unpack.
Very interesting.
Very, very interesting.
I'm intrigued, Curtis.
Okay. So he is a long-term player. He actually didn't take ranked seriously until 2018. So for 7 years, he played the game casually.
So normal games,
normal
or he
games
played
and things like that. Now,
when
he started playing ranked in 2018, he joined a competitive league. So this is like I think it's capped at Silver 1. So everyone below there is Silver 1. And he played in this league for a few years, right?
So when he started to take the